Hello Soma fam, today we're going to learn to sew this beautiful and gorgeous ball gown. So here's the measurement for a 3-year-old. So we have half at the top, then 6 for the chest, and then to the waist we have 7.5 and all the way to the bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop at 8 inches below, like you can see, 5.5, 7, and then 8. Then you see by the shoulder we did 3.75 and then kept an allowance of half an inch. So usually I add my allowance for the shoulder at this start. So it's going to be sleeveless. So do the same thing at the bottom part. So we're going to add half an inch at the side to ensure that it doesn't go deep in but goes a little bit to the edge. Shoulder's armhole length is 4 inches, so we'll mark that. So we draw a straight line straight from the top and then the side as well, like we did in our previous video. So this is for a 3-year-old girl, and so we're going to go out by half an inch. So I came down by half an inch as well from the shoulder, then slanted it all the way to the neckline, then measured 3.5 and located the midpoint, which was 1.75, then came out by 0.25 like this. Use our curve ruler to mark the shoulder rim to the bottom part as well. So now if you had measured 0.5, you would have gotten exactly. So what I did before was 0.75, so I corrected it to 0.5, which is half an inch, and then linked it up seamlessly down to the shoulder armhole length. Then we went down by 2.5 inches and then by the side 2 inches. Then I drew a straight line to the bottom part. So if you had drawn straight from the shoulder line, it would just be 2.5, so that you link it up like this, and then on the side as well, down. I want a box like round neck. I don't want it to be oval so much. So I came out by half an inch and then linked it up like this. And voila, we have our neckline. Then I drew an allowance at the top of half an inch and linked it up like that, and we're done with our allowance at the shoulder line. Then took the measurement of the body. So the chest is 5.5 inches, but I added ease allowance of 0.25, which is 5.25, then linked it up like this. So it's not too tight on her body and it can have ease. So I measured the round armhole, which is 4.5, and that's good. Then there's not enough allowance at the side, so I wrote there 1 inch allowance is going to be added. I linked up the line all the way to the bottom and cut it out. So I wanted to get to 8 inches. So that is the point where it will stop, but I left an allowance at the bottom. After ruling this, an allowance at the bottom for half inch. You see me cut it out, then you see the difference. You can see, aside the part I rolled, I made sure I gave an allowance after the 8 inches, and this is how it looks when it's open. So this is the front part, and let's move on to the back part. So for the back part, don't forget to keep an allowance of 1 inch or half an inch on the other side, because half inch is just necessary. We're going to hide our seams because we want to get it seamless and beautiful. So I used the front parts to check out the back part. This is how easy it is. So instead of that curve on the shoulder point, it's straight. So I drew that line to indicate how straight it is. So usually the back part is not in depth like the front. So I'll just link it up like this. So if you want to still draw everything, you can draw it like this, like what we did earlier on. I'll finish up the lines, then I'll come out by 0.75. So remember in the front part we did half, that was 0.5 instead of 0.75. So for the back, we'll stick to our 0.75. I'll tell you the reason why. So we'll just come out with 0.75, then use our curve ruler to link it up easily like this. And we're done with our armhole for the back. Then for our neck depth, we're going to go down by 1 inch. So indicate the 1 inch, draw a line down. So because of the allowance on the shoulder at the top there, we did it's half an inch actually. So plus that allowance gives it 1 inch. So I came out by half an inch and linked it up like that. Can you see? So you can use your curve ruler or your free hand. Then indicated my back. Now you see the allowance I told you about, the zip allowance. So 1 inch on the side. So I linked it up all the way to the allowance I was talking about. So this is our front and this is our back. So exactly the way the sides cuts in the front is what we're going to do at the back. So I added half an inch, you can see at the back like I told you earlier, and then half an inch on the other side. So this is the fabric we're going to be making use of, and this is the Ankara. So I sewed round half an inch for the neck depth and trimmed it this way. Opened it up, then ironed it, pressed it down with a pressing iron, which made it flat and smooth like this. You can see the shoulder. Because this is a sleeveless outfit, I ensured I added a half inch because I wanted to balance. So fix our zip for the back first with just the material. So this is the Duchess fabric. So I sewed, can you see? I sewed it to the zip like this. Now we'll take our lining, zip it down. So after zipping down, place our lining, the zip facing up, and sew on the lining, front facing front. Can you see? Then sew on those rims I'm pointing to now, and you can see it has been sewn. Sewed it outside the zip, ensuring that the zip is inside. Then I trimmed all those excess edges. So remember I told you can keep half an inch. So if you kept half an inch, you don't have to do this trimming. So I left 1 inch. So I trimmed it all the way to the top, cut out the zip and pulled it out this way. Voila, we have our side of the back. And we did the same thing to the other side as well. I pulled it out and this is how it looks. So every step of the way you're going to be using your pressing iron. So we use our pressing iron to make it flat and we're good. So now we're going to join the shoulders together. So just join the two shoulders back and front together and sew there. See it after it has been sewn. This is how it looks. So we're going to trim it off so it's not too chunky on the shoulder. And did the same thing to the other side as well. And here is the finished shoulder joining. So we use our pressing iron to press it down. Then turning it to the other side, we want to sew around our armhole. Remember it's a sleeveless outfit. So I sewed round the sleeve, the armhole point, and like this. Then pulled it out. I did the same thing to the other side as well, and this is a finished product. So all we have to do is iron, press it down. So after it has been pressed down, we're going to join the two sides together like this. So right side to right side, and then we sew all around. After sewing it, we take a measurement to see whether or not our ease has taken into effect, because the body, round the body is 20 inches, so that means it's 10 in front and 10 at the back. We took our measurement and we have 10.75, so that's good enough. So after that, we have 6 inches for our peplum, and then the length is up to 169, very long. Then we did this, sewed the bottom parts, and then did gathers on the rim. If you want to know more about these gathers, you watch my previous video for a kiddies wear, and you see how the gathers was made. So I measured round, and it got us to 21. So 21 is good enough. So I would measure our skirt bottom part. So our skirt bottom part, the length was 12 inches, and then for the side we have up to 89. So I sewed the bottom part like this, and then we're going to do gathers for the top part. So I took a fabric to the sewing machine and did the gathers. So doing the gathers, this is how I did it. I folded on the other side, left hand side, then forward on this other side, made one fold and sewed. So that's what I did all the way through. Fold back, then fold forward, then did one more fold or gather, but because this is the end, this is where I stopped. So when we're done, this is how it looks. I like how the top looks chucky with that 1 inch fold on the top. Can you see? So this is how it is all around. So I took our peplum and placed it on top of it, lined it on top of it neatly, leaving a 1/2 inch allowance on the side. You can see the peplum already sewn. So we placed the peplum on top of it and ensured we left a 1/2 inch where the zip is going to be placed like this, and then linked it all the way to the end using our pin to hold it down and then sew. So you see, I'll join it all the way and you see 1/2 inch on the sides left. So after we're done joining that together, I'll bring our front part, open up the zip, and then you can see I loosened it a bit, leaving 1/2 inch for joining at the bottom part. So right side to right side and wrong side at the top and at the bottom, you can see. Then I'll sew round. I started from the edge, that 1/2 inch we left, and sewed all around, and this is how it looks. So I'll open inside, we're not done yet. So I'll open inside for you to see. Can you see how it is? How it was sewn? So now we'll deal with the lining. So first, before we get to the lining, we're going to put our zip, sew the zip to the bottom skirt, leaving that peplum on the side. Remember I said you should leave 1/2 inch. So we're going to sew the zip, link it up with the skirt like this, all the way to the bottom, and this is how it looks when it's linked up. So we sew the zip on both sides, and this is how it looks. So we're going to measure 9 inches for our inner lining and did gathers like this so that it's puffy and makes the ball skirt stand up. That's what I love about it. If you want to use hard net, you can use it here, and every other thing you want to add inside to make it more bulky. This is how it looks at the end of all the gathers and the bottom part sewn. We're going to place it on the lining, directly on the lining with the down part like this, and sew all around. Now we get to our bow. How to make our bow. We measured 14 inches for the length, and then the side we have 10 inches like this. Then we folded it by that 14 inches, that's the longest part, and then sewed straight down. So we left the midpoint, you can see, very small allowance for opening, let's say 1.5 inch or less than 1.5. And then we sewed the two sides as I pointed out and turn it from underneath. So I'm going to show you how to make it thicker. In this case, I'm showing you how it looks without having to make it thick. So without making it thick, when I turn it around like this, I'll make a fold or gathers, and you'll see how light it is. And it's not giving that vibe. It's bouncy. So what we're going to do is make it thick, turn it back over, use our SD like this. I've shown you this before. It has this gluey thing on it, and then we'll iron it on it. So I'll press it down. I'll show you how it's pressed down like this. So after pressing it down, turn it backwards, press it down very well, and it glues perfectly. If there's any edge, just press it down, fold it in, and press it down like this. So after turning it over, you know you have to press it down, so that's the usual. So now we're going to go to the ribbon. After we've turned this over and pressed it down, the ribbon, the length is not really necessary. So you can use the 6 inches, you can use 5 inches, but I used this length because I would want to cut it out at the end, just trim it down at the end. So the length, like I said, 6, and then the side you can use 2.5 or 2.25. So I folded it and sewed it this way. So after sewing it, look how it's sewn. I turned it over. I used my seam ripper, turned it over like this. So everywhere it was poked out, the sharp edge was poked out, I put it back inside and took it all the way to the edge like this, and then turned it over. After turning it over, I made sure that that rough part would be that part that shows where it's sewn, it should face upwards. So I pressed it down, and then this other part will look seamless, and that's the part that's going to be out front. Then after pressing it down, I used this long edge and gathered it so that the bow is just so gorgeous. And since it's just for a 4-year-old, this size is just perfect. So I used our needle and thread. So I'm just showing you how it looks, but this is not what we're going to do now. So we're going to use our needle and thread and pass it through it to hold it firmly before we use our ribbon on top of it. So I'll just pass the needle and thread over. Our needle was already threaded, so I'll pass it and lock it like this, and then pass it in again. before locking it up and knotting, then tying it up. So even before putting the ribbon, I already like the outcome. So not the finishing, but then you can see how it looks even without the ribbon. Isn't this gorgeous? So cute. So we move on to put the ribbon around it. So wrap the ribbon around it and ensure that it's facing backwards. Like I told you, the length was too long, so I'm going to chop this off later on. So I'll go to the sewing machine and sew this part. After sewing it, this is how it looks. And so I'll trim it down and turn it over. So after turning it over, see the outcome. Very beautiful. And so I attached it to the front part at the left hand side, and voila, this is how we have our gown. So beautiful. So this is the inner part. You can see how it's seamless, beautiful, and no edge of roughness is showing. So everything is just gorgeous. Zip, everything will lie well on her body and she would love it. So I love the outcome as well. The peplum and everything just stands well. I know on her it will look even more gorgeous. So please don't forget to like and subscribe, and then follow, comment, tell me what you'd want us to make, and just be prepared through this week for the season of Christmas. We're going to make so much more. So have a splendid day and week. Bye.